Hello, good evening. My name is Catherine Kaplan, and I'm with SEB Housing. This is the information session for the affordable apartments that are going to be offered at Cabot Park and Prospect Hill Residences in Beverly. And the purpose of this session is to give you a little background information on the available apartments. I'll also cover the lottery application, the eligibility process, and what to expect after the lottery is run. So if you're watching this after the fact and you have any questions, you're encouraged to email us at info@sdbhousing.com if you have questions that weren't touched on in either this presentation or in the information packet that is on our website for this opportunity. So just for some background information on who we are, so SEB Housing, we are an off-site affordable housing consultant agency. We've been hired by the management team or the developer to market the affordable apartments, conduct this information session. We're going to be the ones collecting and reviewing lottery applications to determine a household's eligibility for this affordable housing lottery. So in the initial phases, it's SEB Housing that you'll be in touch with, but then further along in the process, the on-site management team over at Cabot Park and Prospect Hill will be your main point of contact. So there's a few steps in the process. The first step is applying for the lottery and being found eligible for the lottery. We can answer any questions you have during this time, and then once we run the lottery, your position on the waiting list will be determined based off of the lottery results. And if your position is high enough on the waiting list, you'll then be put in contact with the leasing office to do their lease eligibility screening, which might include credit check, rental history check, background checks, that sort of thing. And if you're found eligible to lease at the property, you'll then be referred back to SEB Housing so we can complete your program certification. And that's the point in the process that you'll need to submit pay stubs, income verifications, asset, tax documentation, that sort of thing. To get into the lottery, though, you don't need to supply verifying information. You're just self-reporting what your household income is on the lottery application. And you're being approved or denied preliminarily just based off of your self-reported income. So if you haven't already, we encourage you to go to our website, so sdbhousing.com. If you go to that website and click on the Affordable Housing Opportunities page and you select I want to rent, there is a page specific to Cabot Park and Prospect Hill Residences. It's labeled as that, and you'll be taken to just a site that has more information on the opportunity and also has a PDF of the information packet, the lottery application. It's also going to have an online link for the online application. We encourage you to complete that online application. As you can see, the link is here too on your screen. It's going to be the quickest way for you to apply and ensure that your application is received right away. Once you've submitted that online application, you'll receive an instantaneous confirmation email. But then later on, a week or two later, you'll receive a more personalized email from us letting you know if your application was approved or denied. That initial email is just letting you know it was received by the server. So if you'd rather a paper application, there's a PDF version of the application that you can download on your computer as well, or you can give us a call and we can email it, or we can mail it out to you. Whatever one of those ways is easiest for you, and you can get the lottery application back into us by mail if you need to as well. But again, we encourage everybody to do it online if you can. So it is fairly brief. Like I mentioned, you don't need to submit supporting documentation with the application. It's just your self-reported information. Applications are due August 3rd at 2 p.m. It says 2 p.m. because the online application is going to be inaccessible after 2 p.m. It will shut down at that time. We have been told that the first leases at these properties will be soon after the lottery. They're ready. And so the properties themselves, so there's two separate properties here, one unit in each property, one affordable one-bedroom apartment at Cabot Park, which is 103 Cabot Street, and then one bedroom, one bathroom at Prospect Hill Residences, which is 371 Cabot Street, in Beverly. Both of the units have washer dryer, central heating and air conditioning. Pets are permitted, subject to restrictions. There is a parking space included in the rent, but the tenants will pay utilities. So you'd be responsible for paying electric heat, cooking, hot water, electricity, water, and sewer that are billed to you. And it's, a great location downtown near shops and restaurants. It's less than a mile from both the coast and Beverly Depot commuter rail station. So the affordable rents, they're actually not on this page, but you will see it's $1,644, and that's for either of the apartments. So those are the same rents for both of those. And this is actually a typo here. This should be 60% of AMI. So your total household income can't exceed 60% of AMI, not 80% of AMI. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. The rent is set by the Affordable Housing Program. The calculation that we do is based off of HUD, which is the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. They come out with area median incomes for the country each spring, excuse me. And Beverly falls in the Boston area. So the area median incomes for this year we're taking into consideration when we did the calculation for the rents here. So these are the rents for the first year of the lease. They could increase if that calculation changes, but no change would be made to the rents until at least 1 year. So the first year of release would never have a change, and you would always have a advanced written notice of any change to the rent. So the eligibility criteria for the Affordable Housing Program. Households have to have qualifying incomes. So your total household income, this is a 60% of area median income for Beverly. If you're a one-person household, you have to make at or below $69,132. If you're a two-person household, your maximum income can't exceed just over $79,000. And I'll talk about these minimum income amount listed here. The second eligibility criteria is that households can't own a home upon move-in. So if you own a home now, you would need to sell it and be off the deed before you'd be eligible for this opportunity. The second priority eligibility criteria here says priority will be given based on household composition. That doesn't really apply in this lottery because there's only one-bedroom apartments, and everybody has the same priority when it's just the one-bedrooms or studios that are available. And this doesn't come up very often, but households can't have financial interest in the development or be what the program refers to as a related party. So if you are working for the developer, the management company, you may not be eligible for the opportunity. But just to circle back on the incomes. So these apartments are being made available at prices that are lower than the market rate apartments at the property. So they're only going to be made available to households who are eligible for the Affordable Housing Program. When we count income, when we're looking at your household income and making sure that you're below this maximum income limit, we're looking at a projection of what your income will be for the next 12 months. It's an estimate. So all household members are included in that. So if you have more than one person working, or if there's bonuses or overtime, all of the income would have to be included. The only exceptions to that are minors. So anybody that's under the age of 18 who's working, we're not going to be counting their wage income. And then also if you have a dependent full-time student, so we have a college student who's 20 and is working, we would only be using the first $480 of their total wages towards your total household income. So most of that is not counted. And it is gross income that we need to count, not the net amount after taxes and after health insurance is taken out, but although most of us are not taking home the full amount of our salary, it is still that gross amount that the program dictates that we must use. And So when you're filling out your application, you just want to make sure you're listing everything on there. Again, if there's more than one job, if you have Social Security income, unemployment, whatever it might be, you want to make sure you list it all on there. You also want to list all of your assets, even though there is no asset limit for rental opportunities. If any asset is generating income, we do need to count it. So if you, if you have bank statements, we are going to be asking for those, even if it's, a PayPal account or something like that, we do need to see it, your 401ks, things like that. So there's no minimum income set by the Affordable Housing Program. However, most management teams, including the one at these properties, wants to be sure that tenants are able to afford the rent, whether or not you're renting a affordable apartment or a market rate apartment. And the management company has set a minimum household income equivalent to approximately 2.5 times the total the total rent. So that's what you're seeing on your screen here. So your total household income would need to be between about $49,000 and $69,000 if you were looking to rent a one-bedroom and you're a one-person household. And it would need to be between $49,000 and $79,000 if you're a two-person household. Those are not set by the program, like I mentioned. It's the management team or the leasing office that has set those. So they're not set in stone. That's why it says approximate minimum income. So if you make $48,000 per year, it's possible that the management team would approve you if you have assets that you may be able to draw from to afford the rent. So just keep that in mind. Households with mobile vouchers, like Section 8, you can disregard the minimum incomes because they're not going to apply to your household. You're going to have a voucher and an agency that is paying a portion of your rent based off your income. So you don't need to make a certain amount per year to be able to qualify. And like I said, there's no asset limit, but we are going to need to ask you to submit and send in your asset information, because we need to confirm that if there's income from assets, then a portion of that will be counted. So in terms of getting your lottery application in, SEB Housing is going to be reviewing the applications, like I mentioned. If we get one and it's denied and you're not sure why, or if maybe you had a typo on your online application, please feel free to reach out to us. If you are found eligible for the lottery, you'll be sent an email with your lottery application number, which is in the form of a series of numbers. So that's just the number that's going to be drawn in the lottery. It's just an anonymous identifier, so your name isn't called during the lottery. It's not a ranking of any sort at this point. It just corresponds with the order in which we approved your application. So if you were the very first person to be approved for this lottery, you would have the lottery application number of A.001. When you get that email that has your lottery application number, it's also going to have a link to a documentation requirements guide, which is going to serve as a kind of a cheat sheet for you to look and see what items and documents you will need to submit after the lottery if you are one of the top households on the waiting list. So keep in mind, just make sure you're reviewing that. And the lottery drawing itself is going to take place on August 18th at 6 p.m., much in the same way as this call is being conducted. So it's going to be a Zoom call. I'll be screen sharing so you're able to see the lottery drawing taking place. And keep in mind that you don't need to attend the actual Zoom call because the lottery results will be shared with households later on that evening. And the lottery will be conducted using a website called random.org. That'll just allow for instantaneous results. So it is a computer website that is going to sort the numbers randomly, and that will be the drawing. So every lottery number is going to be drawn. Sometimes you think, there's 2 units, so there's going to be 2 numbers drawn. Those will be the winners, so to speak, but that is not the purpose of this type of lottery. The purpose is to establish an order on the waiting list. So all lottery application numbers will be drawn and everybody will have a position on the waiting list. If the first 2 people on the waiting list don't rent the units, we will go down the waiting list from there to find eligible households that are still interested in the opportunity. And that email with the waiting list will go out that evening, so you won't have to wait too long if you didn't watch the actual lottery drawing. When you get the lottery results, when you get that email after the lottery drawing, you're going to find your lottery application number and see where you fall on the waiting list. And you'll know whether or not at that point you'll be invited to move forward to contact the management team to do your lease screening. Because remember, applying for their lease is going to be your first step after the lottery. Once you are approved by the leasing office to lease at their property, you'll then be referred back to SEB Housing to submit your income, asset, and tax documentation. And once you're lease approved, if you're the first person on that one-bedroom waiting list, you're going to reserve the apartment, and you're going to, again, like I said, be referred back to SEB Housing. Since this is a little bit different, this property, has 2 units, one being at Cabot Hill and one being, or at Cabot Park, and one being at Prospect Hill residences, you're able to choose which one of those you want. The waiting list is going to be for both properties, and if you are not interested in one of them after the fact, you can get off of that waiting list. So you'll be in touch with SEB Housing if you are approved by the leasing office, and it's a lot of information that needs to come into us. We'll work with you if you don't have everything in on that first try. Submit what you have, and we'll send you a notice letting you know what's missing if there is anything missing. Once you are leased, you don't need to complete any additional screenings for your income until your lease renewal date. So we hope that you love the unit, you want to remain there beyond that first year of the lease. If you do, you're going to recertify your income with the leasing office a few months before the lease renewal. And if your income has increased above that 60% of AMI amount, that's fine. Households are still eligible to rent these apartments at the affordable housing price, as long as their household income doesn't exceed 140% of the current year's income. So this is mentioned on page 14 of the information packet, but 140%, just to give you an idea, for a household of 2, you would have qualified for this lottery with an income at or below $79,008, and that same family can make up to $110,611 at the time of their recertification in order to remain eligible to continue paying for the affordable apartment price. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there. The program doesn't want anybody to be disqualified for, getting a raise or a different job or anything like that. But that about covers what I wanted to get through this in the information packet. If you're interested in this opportunity, we encourage you to reach out to us if you have other questions that weren't covered by either shooting us an email at info@sebhousing.com, or this is our main number as well, the 617 number here. So we look forward to getting your application for Cabot Park and Prospect Hill residences, and look forward to hearing from you. Have a good night.